For the second year in a row, the Sooners have done something that no other team in college football has been able to do. And actually ain't got nothing to do with college football, which is kind of funny, but at the same time, it does. So in back-to-back seasons, the Oklahoma Sooners have the most players represented in the Super Bowl. It's 2 years in a row. Last year and this year. Back-to-back. Which is pretty dope. So we got to talk about these players, man. I thought this would be a fun video to really talk about the excitement of players being sent to the NFL by Oklahoma and kind of the pipeline that we're starting to see at one particular team. So let's dive into that. Before we do that, welcome to Unfair Sports. I'm your host, Jay. Thank y'all for pulling up to the channel. Y'all know what it is. We're out here talking OU football and college football in general here on this channel, and we appreciate y'all always pulling up. You can also check out my Sooner or Later Sports channel for all the Sooner fans. You'll see that up there on the banner. Go subscribe there. We're going to be dropping a whole bunch of recruiting stuff over on that side. Use this channel for all the big announcements. But I digress. Let's dive right into Oklahoma having 6 players representing them in the Super Bowl, with 4 of them coming from Kansas City and 2 of them coming from the San Francisco 49ers. And it appears that Kansas City has built themselves a slight little pipeline of snatching up Oklahoma players, especially because they're all really, from that line, right? Especially in Kansas City, they focused on a lot of the trench guys. And so let's look at these players. So last season, Oklahoma did this. And of course, we talked about it in a live. You had Kansas City had 4 players from Oklahoma on their roster. In Philadelphia, the Eagles had 2 that were actually playing, but the others were and 2 more that were on the practice squad. So in Philadelphia, you had Lane Johnson and Jalen Hurts, who were definitely playing. And then you had Kennedy Brooks, who was on the practice squad, future reserve, as well as Tyrese Robinson, who was also on the practice squad. And then, of course, you had the Chiefs with Blake Bell, Orlando Brown, Creed Humphries, as well as James Winchester. And they got themselves a ring. Now, those guys, they got themselves 2 rings with KC already because they've been there. But looking at it, man, it's crazy. Going into this year, KC with the same representation, but they replaced one with another. So, of course, you go through, you got Blake Bell, the former quarterback. Played at Oklahoma, transitioned into tight end, and he's moved around a little bit in the NFL, but the good thing is he found a home really in Kansas City. He's spent more seasons with KC than he has with any other team, and so kind of shows you the last, 5 years, he basically realized that, you know what, we're going to make Kansas City home, and that's where we're going to spend all of our time. So, of course, Blake Bell out here doing what he do. And, he's contributing the way they need him to contribute. He shows up, shows out whenever he needs to. Now, he's not the nation's top tight end, but he's a piece that they enjoy. Like I said, for the last 5 years, he's been with KC. And so they recognize the beauty of having an Oklahoma player. Then you go down the line. From there, you have James Winchester, who, the long snapper. He's been there in KC for a bit, got himself 2 rings, going for his 3rd. Another, as a long snapper, another big player to come from Oklahoma that's up there in that pipeline to Kansas City. And I remember seeing a soundbite where Andy Reid basically was talking about how he likes how Bill Beatonbow does things on that offensive line because that leads you right into Creed Humphries, who and Creed's there. He's been in KC. He's been an all-pro center. And he was a definite piece from the Bill Beatonbow pipeline. You put him next to Wanye Morris. So you got Creed and Wanye on the offensive line replacing Orlando Brown, who was there the last time they went to the Super Bowl last year. Orlando went and made his money. So instead they went and drafted Wanye Morris in the 3rd round, pairing him with Creed Humphries, in which Wanye came to Oklahoma via Tennessee when he transferred there, played a couple years in the Beatonbow, got himself drafted in the 3rd round. And he's actually played some meaningful minutes for KC at that tackle position. Can't beat that, right? So you look at it, you got Wanye Morris, Creed Humphries, James Winchester, as well as Blake Bell, all going into Kansas City from the Oklahoma pipeline. Love to see it. I think Kansas City has a thing for Sooners, let's put it that way. And I would not be surprised if they picked up another offensive lineman from Oklahoma in this draft or another player, because it seems like they enjoy what they're getting up that I-35-ish drive or 44 drive, depending on where you're coming from, right into Kansas City. They like what they're getting. It's KC players. Then you go to 49ers. Now you got an old head there, that big silverback, Trent Williams, who that's his nickname, which is hilarious. But he is arguably one of the best offensive lineman tackles to ever play in the NFL, period. Like, he's in that argument now, and coming from Oklahoma. He wasn't unbeaten, Bo, but he is another Oklahoma offensive lineman, spent time at Washington, and then ended up with the 49ers after the entire debacle that went on there in Washington. And what's funny about that is, I think about it, see him, you got Chase Young, who played at Ohio State, but both of them get out of Washington, get to San Francisco, and boom, they're playing in a Super Bowl, right? So this is the first time that Trent's getting to play in the Super Bowl, and a lot of Sooner fans are really rooting for him because they want him to get his first ring. I mean, the other guys have already got 2 rings. Why not help get Big Trent his first? And yeah, I mean, I see a lot of people in the discourse and conversation about that, and I totally get it. I totally get wanting as many Sooners to get rings as possible. But you add in Big Trent with Braden Willis. Braden Willis, Oklahoma. I mean, we remember Braden last year, right? You know, he's playing quarterback. Unfortunately, in the circumstances that we didn't want him to play quarterback. But guess what? He balled out while he was here, and he's becoming a little bit of a contributor there in San Francisco. I'm hoping that they can start really using him more. He's got the talent to be able to do it, especially tight end spot. But you got Braden Willis. You add him with Big Trent. Man, we got the Sooners representing. So that's 6 players in the Super Bowl from Oklahoma. Again, the second time, 2 years in a row, back-to-back years, the most players represented from one university in the Super Bowl. That's wild to see that we're seeing that. And it sounds like, you know, Oklahoma's becoming a Super Bowl U. The way we're just sending dudes to teams that are going to the Super Bowl, especially contributors. It's not like we're just sending dudes that ain't really playing. We're sending dudes that are all pros. And they're key components to what these teams are doing. So that's what it is. Hop in the comments. Let your boy know your thoughts. Love to hear from you all. How y'all feeling about Sooners in the Super Bowl? Because you know your boy's excited. Love seeing that Oklahoma is producing talent. I was going to go through the stats and numbers, but who won't do that? I want y'all to just enjoy the fact that Oklahoma is sending players to teams that are going to Super Bowl. So we send NFL players, and they're going to Super Bowl. Made this far, like the content, hit that like button if you're new to the channel. Subscribe. Love for you to join this family of college football fans. You know, we'll be talking a lot more this week. Got the final rankings for our recruiting class coming later today. We'll talk about that, and then we're going to definitely dive into a lot of stuff going into the weekend because a big weekend's coming up. So we'll chop it up soon. Peace.